Welcome to the Earth System Governance Network Early Career Researchers podcast. I'm Cebuan Bliss, one of the coordinators of the ECR committee. In this series of bite-sized podcasts, we're asking senior scholars what life was like for them in their early careers. Today, I'm joined by Cristina Inoue, Associate Professor of Environmental Governance at Radboud University and a Senior Research Fellow at the University of Brasilia. Welcome to the podcast, Cristina. Also a colleague of mine. So to get started, what was life like for you as an ECR?
Okay, thank you, Sally, for this invitation. It's very nice to be able to be part of this project. For me, as we were talking earlier, was a mixture of being a professor at the same time being a student, a PhD student. And it was because I started first, I was hired as a professor, and because I was a professor, I had to enroll in a PhD program and to get a doctorate degree. So, and I did my PhD on, it's called Sustainable Development Center at the same university where I was hired as a professor. And there I moved from the classroom as a teacher to the classroom as a student during my first 2 years. So it was a crazy time for me because I had to prepare. I was teaching like 2 or 3 courses that were new to me, so I had to prepare a lot to teach. But at the same time, I had all my readings, assignments, and everything else as also as a PhD student in Brazil. So I was always kind of overloaded. But it was fun anyway. It was a fun time.
So wearing 2 hats at once. And although it was a crazy time, is there anything you miss about your life as an early career researcher?
I think I missed the most was the interaction with my colleagues in the classroom. When I was as a student, as a PhD student, so we had like a group of 8 PhD candidates or students in that time with me, and they were from different backgrounds. And we had like several classes on environmental policies and politics, sociology of the environment, economics of the environment. And we had long discussions in the classroom because we are from different backgrounds. So one of the characteristics of my PhD program was that it was interdisciplinary, and it was really interdisciplinary. Like there were 2 social scientists like me and another one, but also some people from biologists, agricultural engineering, forestry engineering. So it was a mixture of people. And so it's very interesting to discuss about sustainability, on the challenges, everything from so different perspectives. There were many clashes among us, but that time was also a lot of cross-fertilization, and I learned a lot, not only from my teachers, but also from my colleagues.
Yeah, sometimes we learn a lot in those clashes, and helps us grow as academics. And what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
And that time, I think this thing about having 2 hats and I had to teach, I had to supervise. So I had a lot of tasks there as well, and also to do my own research and study. So there was one challenge that was not easy to do. But I had this double life for 2 years. And so my institute gave me not license, I would call it free time, not free time. They just released me from the classroom obligations so that I could do my field research and write my PhD dissertation. So it was how it was organized on that time. So I think the main challenge was being able to wear these 2 hats in the first 2 years. So, and after that was fine, doing my field work and being able to go to the Amazon to do my research and write and travel around, interview. So it was great.
It sounds like an adventure.
It was, yes, it was, because as I decided to I come from this international relations background, so usually we study process that are like global, international negotiations and that. But what I wanted to know was how all these global norms and global negotiations, views or knowledge, how do they play out at the local level? So what I did was I studied a lot of this global process, and I went to the fields right there in the middle of the Amazon. It's called Mamirawa, to see how they played out. And it was an adventure because it was like I didn't know the Amazon really well. And so I had to take boats and see. And the first time I went, I remember that being in this boat and going right there in the middle of the forest and the rivers. And I saw a lot of alligators around me, many, many birds. And I felt like I was in some kind of paradise because I never saw so many birds and animals all at once and so much water. So yeah, it sounded a lot like an adventure.
Yeah, I guess it was a very formative learning experience for you, and it sort of brings me on to my next question. And I know you a little bit, so I know how passionate you are, but what makes your work meaningful to you?
For me, it was the possibility of thinking, reflecting on these sustainability challenges, but also how I think that through my students, mainly because I'm not a very, I do not do lobby, for instance, or things like that. But I do believe that through my teaching and how I do sustainability education and all that, it's also a way of influencing and trying to change the world and not protect life, protecting non-humans and all that through these educational activities. So that I think makes my work meaningful for me.
Yeah, and I've seen it firsthand, the difference that you make at Radboud.
For me, it was the possibility of thinking, reflecting on these sustainability challenges, but also how I think that through my students, mainly because I'm not a very, I do not do lobby, for instance, or things like that. But I do believe that through my teaching and how I do sustainability education and all that, it's also a way of influencing and trying to change the world and not protect life, protecting non-humans and all that through these educational activities. So that I think makes my work meaningful for me.
Yeah, and I've seen it firsthand, the difference that you make at Radboud. And it brings me on to the final question. What was the most helpful piece of advice you were given as an early career researcher?
Yes, for me, it was the importance of critical and independent thinking, and that and also the importance of teaching. I think they were the two things that always have been part of my path, and also that it's important to be able to have my own contribution and to find my place, right? Because I think everyone has his or her or very unique place on earth, and to be able to find it in being original and believe in yourself. I think that was very important. And I remember my supervisor, sometimes he would push me because he said, oh, sometimes it was more like I did not believe in myself. Then he said, you have to believe in yourself, and that you are in your path, right? And I don't need someone to tell me, but I needed on that time that sometimes my supervisor would just, I remember once he called me and I said, no, yeah, you cannot give up now, just go and believe in yourself. So I think that message of believing in myself, believing in my work was very important on that time, so that I could go on.
Yeah, thank you. I think that really resonates. Like sometimes we need to be reassured and finding our own academic voice and standing on our own 2 feet. Sometimes it just takes a bit of motivation from someone else to help us get there.
Yes, I think yeah, definitely. One part of our job as scholars, I think, is when we mentor people, is really trying to understand that other person we're talking to and really giving a little push or, as Ingrid also says, tickle the person so that she or he can also find his way. I think that's our main task as mentors as well.
Yeah, well, thank you, Cristina, for your time and for that inspiring insight into your history.
Thank you for this opportunity, and it's so nice to be able to talk to people, and hopefully many of our system governance researchers will listen and look for us. And I do hope that we can help this to foster this new generation of our system governance scholars, and I hope they would do better than we do now, to be more impactful and also inspire others and mentor other students. And so we keep going and growing, but growing not only in number, but also in quality, and that you do better than I do now. And so, because we don't have so much time, right? So to influence and to help curb the biodiversity loss curve, or to stop climate change, foster justice. And so there's so many things that we need to do in fast, and we do need a lot of people. So I do hope that we can at least inspire some more people to do that as well and be aboard with us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you paved the way for us. So thanks very much, Cristina.